Welcome, everyone. We have an XtraTalk, and we have Papimento back from Aruba, I see.
Yes,
Welcome, bro.
yes.
We have Sahbi. Welcome, Sahbi. And we have Kabir, guys. It's been a while. Kabir,
Wow.
tell us a little bit about how life is in Dubai, bro.
Oh, it's really good. It was well, when I moved in July, it was touching 50 degrees, so it wasn't that pleasant. But now it's nice and cool. Now it's like 35 degrees.
Nice and cool.
That's cool.
But no, it's all good. I can't complain. You know, things are going well. It's been 3 months here now, and yeah, really good. So far, so good. It seems like since I left Holland, things have been going a little bit off the cliff with Ajax.
Still following Ajax every day?
Absolutely, without a doubt, following Ajax every day, reading up every day, watching the talk shows on on the internet, streaming it all and everything. So definitely up to speed with all of that. But I wish we could go back to the simpler days when everyone thought I was Martinez's chef. So.
Oh, wait, guys. Okay, so for the viewers, right, the ones that don't know about this story, you have to explain this to us. So this was prior to you going to Dubai, right?
This was, I think, 3 or 4 days before I was going to Dubai. So I went for a farewell dinner with a friend of mine, a couple of friends, and we went to quite a popular Argentinian steakhouse in Amstelveen. And it's also one of the restaurants that a lot of these Latino Ajax players go to. You walk in the restaurant, there's all these like shirts of players that have signed it and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, we went there, we finished up paying the bill, and I turned around and it was Martinez, it was Alvarez, and it was Magellan. And I said to my friend, I was like, look, we got to take a picture. And he's like, no, you don't want to disturb them. I was like, look, I'm leaving. He's going to leave. Let's take a picture. So I approached them, and Martinez was really calm. He was like, yeah, sure, let's have a picture. And I said to him, Manchester's not as nice as Amsterdam. Cracked a few jokes here and there, blah, blah, blah. So we took some nice pictures, right? And then I went back home, and I did the usual thing. I put it on my Instagram story. But what I did also was I put it on my Twitter, but I sort of hashtagged it. And I put a little cheeky comment saying, farewell dinner, because I was leaving. I knew he was going to leave. And I said something like, Manchester United fans, take good care of him, etc., etc. He's a really good player. I woke up the next day to, I could not even tell you how many retweets, how many likes, how many comments, Instagram messages, Instagram follower requests, my name all over the newspapers in London, in the UK, all over the back pages, even on the NOS. The NOS. And the most messed up thing with all of this was that apparently overnight I became the personal chef to Oranje, the sort of chef of the Oranje football team, Martinez's personal chef. I was all of a sudden the guy that was breaking. I felt like Fabrizio Romano. Like I broke the story of this transfer, and mind blown. I was like, this is the power of social media.
Yeah. So now you're the chef, basically.
So I was the chef of Martinez. I was the chef of the Oranje football team. I was the guy that broke the story, and I had journalists message me from Argentina, from the UK. I had one of the chefs from FC Volendam message me saying, "Can you get me a job at Ajax?" I had just crazy. I had about half of Nigeria follow me on Instagram. Martinez was joining their club. It was just crazy. I literally became an overnight celebrity, and it lasted for like a good week. And then it sort of died down a little bit. But the funny thing was, it all happened in that period where it was like, is he going? Is he not going? And because I wrote that caption, people saw it as me confirming it as his private chef,
Yeah, exactly.
Hilarious. Seriously.
I don't think you will ever forget this one.
Oh, never, man. Never. So don't believe everything you read and see on the media, because this is a classic example of it's not always true.
Yeah, absolutely. And also what's maybe you know about it, but maybe the frightening stuff is that all the media just take it over. They don't fact check, right?
No. So I was surprised. So it was most of the sort of tabloid in the UK. They call it tabloid newspapers, like not really the reputable ones, but the guys that like to put out gossip there, etc., etc. But
Sun.
what really surprised, yeah, like the Sun, the Daily Mail, all these types of newspapers. But what really surprised me is when I saw it on the NOS, like a reputable platform, and they came up with a story that I was the chef of the Oranje football team. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
So
Unbelievable.
really crazy. It's currently in the age we live in. It's not about whether it's accurate. It's who's getting the first story out there. Who's getting the first story out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah, it sounded like fun as well.
Oh man, it was crazy.
So there's a little bit of a glitch on your side, but that's okay. You're in Dubai. I hope people will, understand this as well. For the one that came back from Aruba, you went to Aruba, Papimento. Things went south from that moment on. I hope now you came back. I hope things will pick up now again.
I hope so. I told you guys to take care of Ajax, but nothing happened. So I don't know where you guys went wrong, but damn.
Yeah. So look, we're going to talk about Schreuder, and especially the focal point will be about the post-match interview. I guess you guys didn't miss that one after Ajax Excelsior on Sunday. And why is this the focal point? Because he said that many things that are very interesting, starting from the summer and also what's been happening in recent months. And I want your take about what he said, but also in general about the form of this team, about what we did in the summer, the signings, all these kind of things. So it will be a very interesting talk. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say about it. But before we start with my first question, I came up with 3 statements. I only need true or false from you guys. So I will start with Papimento. Yeah, and then we'll just make the round, right? So the first one is, there is too much criticism on this current Ajax team.
False.
Kabir.
False.
False.
Okay. Second statement. I'll go with you first, Kabir. Schreuder is right. You cannot build a whole new team in 3 months' time.
True.
Sahbi?
True.
Papimento.
I'm going to go with false.
Okay. And then the last statement that I have, I will start with Sahbi on this one. Hamstra and Huntelaar are not qualified to act as technical directors for Ajax.
True.
Who? Sorry? Huntelaar and Hamstra, did you say that?
Yes.
No, false. False.
They are not qualified, you say false.
Oh, no.
They are not qualified to be technical
True.
directors
No,
for
false,
Ajax.
false. No, they are qualified. So
Sahbi said true, right? Sahbi?
Yeah, I said true.
Okay. Kabir?
Yeah, true. I agree with Sabi. True.
True. All right, guys. So we will definitely touch upon these points during the discussion. So the first thing I want to touch upon is during the press conference. He said, Alfred Schreuder said, if you guys think you can build a whole new team in 3 months, you don't know anything about football, right? Go get your coaching licenses and train your own team. And in other words, you guys don't know what you're talking about, right? To the media, to everybody that has been criticizing this Ajax team. I want to touch upon that. I want to start with Kabir on this. Kabir, what's your point of view on this particular matter? So when he said this is a rebuild, it takes more time, we need more time, we lost a lot of players in the summer. He said 7 key players or important players, which is true. How do you view this?
I think that there's a point that he has when making that statement. I think that if you look historically at the managers that we've had, Peter Bos needed some time to build things up. Erik ten Hag needed time to build things up. I think that there is a pattern where a new manager joins Ajax. Inevitably, in that particular summer transfer window, players have come and gone. Look, in this particular window, it wasn't an abnormal amount of players that left. So I do understand that. I believe that the quality, if you compare it to the seasons before, has dropped. And so that makes Schreuder's job tougher. And I do agree with the sentiment that it's tough to build a team within 3 months, especially a team that's pretty much new in quite a few positions. But that doesn't take away from my overriding feeling that this is, a bridge too far for someone like Schreuder. I think that he's a manager. We'll probably touch on this a bit later on, but I think that he's a manager that's, he's done a lot of good work as an assistant manager. But I think that, having and managing a team and training a team on his own 2 feet, it just seems to be something that isn't quite suited to him, let alone a massive club like Ajax, where there's always going to be pressure, there's always going to be discussion, you're always going to be in the spotlight. So I do agree with the sentiment. It's tough to build something within 3 months, but I do also think that we should have been further down the process in these 3 months than we are now.
Okay, let me just counter with this one. You're saying you have this overriding feeling, right? That you don't think he's qualified, but we've been not even with Schreuder for 3 months, since the start of the competitions. Why do you have that feeling if you do agree with the fact that he needs time to rebuild?
Yeah, I think it's also, it boils down to actually, the decisions that he's making, the team that he's putting out there. I think that there are, it's been spoken about, it's been written about a lot recently in the past few weeks about players that are on the bench. And I think that many fans, many pundits can see the virtue of having certain players start. And actually certain players that are playing that probably don't deserve starting, but it seems like he's struggling to make the tough decisions. Now, we don't know whether there's something in play behind that. There's a lot of talk about, Schreuder and Tadic sharing the same agent, and that could have a possible reason as to why someone like Tadic is starting every game. And then you look at someone like Robbie, who was bought for 16 million or however much it was, and how he could really act as that focal point, striker that we need to hold up the ball, to provide that physicality. He's on the bench. Sure, Kudus has come in, he's scored goals, but how effective a striker is he within the Ajax system? That remains to be seen. So there are a couple of tactical decisions that he could make, which he's not doing. Now, I don't know whether that's because, again, there could be other factors in play, or maybe he doesn't have that tactical insight to be able to make those decisions, or maybe he does, but actually he doesn't have the charisma or the personality to make that tough decision. Now, if you don't have that, and you're managing a big club like Ajax, where there's always going to be discussion around everything, then I feel that you're out of your depth.
All right. I will touch upon this later. You said a lot of things which are very interesting. I just want to hear out the other boys as well. Sahbi, let me go with you. What's your overall feeling about that particular subject, about the rebuild, that he needs more time? And I don't know if you have your coaching license, by the way.
Yeah, I wish I had, because I could easily take over that job, man.
Easily.
Easily. It's all about taking the decisions. No, man. I mean, of course, I do agree. It's a rebuild season. It's a rebuild season. He has to rebuild, but I can't say I fully agree with all that he said. I mean, the starting lineup is true. It's not that strong as last year, but I do think that we have a broader squad at this moment. In other words, we did drop in quality. That's clear. I mean, we lost Anthony Martinez and so on and so on and so on. And so it's okay to lose. It's okay to lose, but we should not forget that we also invested more than 100 million in players this window as well. So, of course, I don't expect miracles from this squad or from Schreuder, but I do expect some growth in our play. From what I've seen in these last couple of months, last 3 months, or maybe even more, I don't see an identity. I don't see a clear way of how we play. If you're talking about Ajax, how does Ajax play at this moment? You will get tons of different opinions. We play pressing, we play reactive, we play. There is no identity. So, and I still see players on the wrong positions. I still see certain experienced players playing each game while they're so poor. I mean, if this is considered a rebuild season, a harsh decision needs to be made. He's talking about rebuild. Rebuild means starting from the bottom again, so to say. Yeah. If you have to do that, you need to take harsh decisions, and I don't see that. I see certain players continuously playing while they are playing below par, and it's unacceptable for me. So, and especially if we lose games against Liverpool, where we normally can lose such game, but the way we lost, unacceptable for me. Even though we lost in quality, it's like we were an amateur team. The same applies for Napoli. We conceded 10 goals in 2 games. and it could have even been more if they didn't took the gas of the pedal.
Of,
So yeah, I mean, I don't see any progress. That's basically it. We're talking about more than 3 months. Uh, the Ten Hag boss, they got, as Kabir said, they also got many time, but a lot of time. But with, for example, boss, you could see what he
Mm.
wanted. He wanted that 5 second rule, even though it didn't work out at the beginning. We could see some progress every game. Now
Yeah.
we're already how many 10 games further. I don't see any identity. I see nothing. So I'm losing my trust in him, and that's why
Mm.
I'd rather keep him out. He's for me the perfect assistant coach, as I said it, as I said many months ago, but not the head coach for me.
So for you, after less than 3 months, let's say 10 games Eredivisie, 4 games UCL, for you, you don't have trust anymore in Schreuder. That's what you're saying.
Exactly, because I don't. I mean, you talk about 10 games, yeah. So 1/3 of a whole season in the Eredivisie, and I don't see any progress. I don't know how to. I don't know how Ajax plays. Every time, I mean, if you ask different fans, anyone will give you a different lineup because there is no clear way how to play.
Yeah,
Who
that's
is the right winger? You can name 3 players. Who should be the left winger? You could name 3 players. Who should be the striker? There's always the Kudus fans or the Tadic fans or the Broby. There is no clear formation. There is no clear way of how we should play. The players themselves are probably having less confidence because they don't even know whether they will play or not, except for the Papimento, the diplomats. They always play.
Yeah, but Pimento, I want also your opinion on this, and especially, do you agree with Sahbi on the ladder arguments that he brought up? Again, like the shifting around, not knowing which players are playing where. Is it? I mean, you can argue he's at the beginning stage. He's trying to figure out what works because he said it a couple of times in interviews. But are you more?
Is he really though? Is he really trying to find out, or is he trying to implement diplomats wherever on the position so they play, and then the rest is up to him to rotate?
Exactly.
But the diplomats always play, and if you look at the first kind of games, right, in the Eredivisie, we won almost everything, but I wasn't happy. I didn't see pace in the game. I didn't see tempo. I didn't see a good build up. I didn't see the Ajax way of playing. Okay, and then he starts. I understand that he's angry that journalists are talking about agents and all that other stuff, right? But he should also look at himself. And I found the interview kind of weak because he doesn't look at his tactics and say, okay, we put Kudus as a false 9 because nobody sees him as a 9 except Schreuder. But if you play him there, you would consider that he wants a possession game, build up from the back. And he doesn't want long balls with a false 9. But the whole game was long balls to Kudus. So what does he expect? Like, are we stupid or something? We're not watching the game. I need a coach diploma to see that doesn't work. I think he should be a little bit more critical towards himself and explain his tactical views, because Tadic went from left winger to 10 to right winger, and he tried everything with Tadic, even false 9. But did other players get that those amount of chances like Tadic did, or Blind playing like ass and also always playing? So he's making it harder on himself. That's one. He's not making it. I'm not seeing the build-up. And of course, we lost quality. Of course, you don't have Mazraoui, you don't have Martinez, you don't have, it's only Blind in the back that can basically do the build-up. So we did lose a lot of quality. But if you play if you play Taylor and Berghuis on the midfield, you would expect a little bit more build-up, a little bit more smooth passes, and it's not happening. So it's not clicking. And I blame Schreuder for, even though it was going well, his expectations are not high enough because the game wasn't good. And he's not changing, if we're playing bad, the game with a substitution or with different tactics. And that's also what I want to see from a coach. A high-level coach knows when it's not working and changes. And he doesn't just keep on going the same style. So, yeah, I don't believe he really looked at the team as what are the best combos, what are the best players in those positions. No, I think he started with, okay, the diplomats have to play, so we're going to see where they place, and the rest I will form around them. But the diplomats are not what they used to be, and we're seeing that now. And I think they're getting too much trust from the coach at the moment.
Kabir, do you agree with Papimento? Or is Schreuder giving too much trust? He calls them the diplomats, but basically he's referring mostly about Tadic and Blind.
Klaassen. You can also add
Well,
Klaassen or
Berghuis.
But Berghuis has always been also a little bit like, he's also the veteran in the team. He's playing always. If it's not 8-10, if it's not 10, a right winger. But you have to agree. Look, the only thing I agree with is that the team is off balance because we're lacking creativity. We're lacking real quality in especially on the ball.
Yeah,
and we don't have a right winger, a proper right winger.
Yeah, I know. We will touch upon the summer signings and these kind of things in a bit. Yeah. But I just want to talk about this first 3 months. You know what you guys are saying. You and Sahbi are very firm in your judgment about him. You know, you guys are like, I don't see enough of him in those 3 months to have any sort of confidence. Basically, that's what you guys are saying. Kabir, are you on the same level, or are you a little bit more hesitant towards, I agree with them, but there's a but?
No, there isn't, unfortunately. I wish there was. There isn't. As I said, at the start of the show, I don't think that he's out of his depth. And, you can say 3 months, fine, fair enough, 3 months. But also there's an element of, you need to kind of stop the rot. We conceded 10 goals to Napoli over 2 games. That says to me that something's not right. I mean, that's pretty obvious that something's not right. The setup, the personnel. Look, I understand why when we've lost 7 or 8 players or however many it was, good quality players, obviously as a coach that's coming in, you want to rely on the stalwarts. So who does he look at? He looks at Blind, he looks at Tadic, because those are the guys, that's the continuity. Fair enough, you start with them at the start of the season. But if they're not delivering, that's when you have to put your foot down and make the decisions that you're paid to make. You're the manager of the team, right? It's your job to make the tough decisions. It's your job to have those tough discussions. Implement change. I completely agree with Sabi. There is no identity to the way we're playing. Boss, you could see there was an identity. Erik ten Hag, you could see that there was an identity. I do not see this under Alfred Schreuder. So you can say 3 months, fine, fair enough. But also, if you then say, okay, let's give it, another 2-3 months, who knows what could happen by then? We could have been knocked out by, have not made it past the group stages, which is looking very likely. We could be maybe 2nd or 3rd in the league. Who knows, right? So it's about identifying, actually, is it right to maybe pull the plug now? Or is there any form of improvement? But that's the issue. There isn't. There's nothing you can hold on to say, actually, do you know what? There's a sort of an increase in something, whether it's tactical play, whether it's, performance of the players, something like that, whether we're winning by big margins. Okay, we beat Excelsior 7-1, but I'm sorry, that's Excelsior Rotterdam. They're like the 3rd team in Rotterdam. So do you know what I mean? Like, that's not something.
Not according to Ajax.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. But you know what I mean? Let's not get clouded by a 7-1 victory at home to Excelsior Rotterdam. Because at the end of the day, we've regressed. I'm sorry, maybe we've been spoiled under Erik ten Hag, possibly. But even under Peter Bos, we still, we didn't win the league, but we got to the final of the Europa League by playing some incredible football. I don't see the results, and I don't see the good style of play under Schreuder. So maybe 3 months is a good time to have that evaluation and say, listen.
And what frustrates me the most is that Schreuder keeps on telling after the game that it was one of our best games. We played so well. I saw positive things. Such a crap. I mean,
actually, it's a good point. I want to touch upon that as well. I know.
But as a coach, you're not going to say something else, though.
No, but wait. Well, actually, to be honest, if you get smacked, by Napoli, you're not going to say this was one of your best games of the season.
No.
I'll give you an example. When we beat Borussia Dortmund 4-0 at home last year in the Champions League, Erik ten Hag, in his press conference, actually spoke about the things we did badly and spoke about how there was room for improvement and spoke about how, even though we won 4-0, let's not all get excited and get caught up into it because there are a lot of things that went wrong. Here, we've just had, we've lost 4-2 after conceding 6 in the first game. And Alfred Schreuder is saying it's one of the best matches that's been played under his watch. Levels, right? Different levels. That's what being an Ajax manager is. And that's what Schreuder is at, the level he's operating it at is completely
100.
off the Richter scale.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
The only thing I would defend Schreuder at is his team is off balance because there are players missing. He did lose a lot of quality, but he's not making it easier. He's not making it easier on himself with his decisions.
I think I'm going to let Pimento host from now on because he just took away what I wanted to ask. No, I'm going to ask it either way. I want to move to the other point. So we talked about the rebuild, right? Another thing that he said during the interview about how many players, it was an extreme window, right? He referred to his agent that helped. He said even Overmars left. There was no experience during the summer, to facilitate all these transfers going out and also coming in to find replacements and these kind of things. So I want your opinion on that, Sahbi. And I also want to link it to what we're talking about Schreuder, because I feel there was an interview, I think you guys read it also today, with Football International about Van der Sar. It almost feels like Van der Sar is a little bit, he feels, how do you call it? He feels like he's responsible for the fact that he gave Schreuder a team that wasn't the team that Schreuder thought he would have this season. So how much can we also take that into account? Sahbi.
Yeah, I mean, of course we should take that into account. And that's one of the reasons why I gave him the benefit of the doubt at first. I mean, he started with, on paper, a much weaker squad. But then again, as I said a bit later, he got more than 100 million funds to invest in players. So, and I saw his interview about his agent, and he said, of course, my agent helped me. We don't have any colleagues within Ajax that are experienced, that have know-how on transfer business, etc. So his agent helped him. He confirmed that with these Ajax transfers. But then again, it means that he had a say in most of the transfers, right? I mean, otherwise,
I would assume.
I assume because his agent helped him out. So why doesn't he play these players that he bought?
But one more. Okay, another thing. Yeah, another thing. I want to go differently because finding a replacement for a good player is more difficult than keeping a good player, right? Because
exactly.
Sar said also when he came, they were looking at next season, the squad, how it would look like. And basically, they knew about Gravenberg, they knew about Tagliafico, maybe Schuurs, these kind of players. But
Mazraoui
they knew about. But Martinez and Anthony were not part of that group.
No, and I agree with that. But then I come back with the same question that I had, like a rhetorical question. So why doesn't he play the players that he bought? Why is the squad still unbalanced while he was able to invest so much money? We're talking about 100 million. I mean, we sold Anthony for 100 million, or almost approximately 100 million. I'm not telling that we need to have that specific player in our squad, but there is always a list. Every top club has a list of players that we are watching, and there was news apparently where it was stated that the directors, or maybe even Schreuder, didn't have trust in our scouts in Veldmaten. The players that we bought, Ajax didn't have a scouting report for these players. What does that tell us? Does it tell us that Schreuder wanted to get his players and then that's it? I mean, there should be a logical explanation for that, right? He was able. He has a say. We assume he has a say in all those transfers that came in. So why is it still not in balance? Why are most of the players on the bench instead of in the starting lineup? What went wrong?
But can I ask another question? Because we're touching a lot of points here, right? You're saying we're off balance. I think it was mentioned a couple of times. This team is not balanced enough like last season. Is it though? Did we find this? I mean, did he? Yeah, one moment, Popimento. Did he actually? Is he still trying to find a sweet spot? Maybe we do have a sweet spot we haven't found because he's been switching 3 months all the time to find his sweet spot.
No, but I mean, for example, we're talking about the defense
Okay.
build up.
Mhm.
In the past, last year we had Martinez, who could easily cope with pressure, was able to give passes wherever you want, wherever and whenever you wanted. If you know that Martinez will leave, although I mean it was clear that he wanted to leave, so there was a lot of time to look for plan B, for second choice on your list.
Yeah.
Why not a player with the same characteristics? You know you will sell him for the jackpot, 50, 60 million. Why not getting a player, South America, I don't care where, to have that same characteristics as Martinez, and then build from there. I'm not saying Bessie is shit. I love his grinta, the way he plays, but he lacks build-up play. He can't handle the pressure when the attackers are pressuring.
He has to develop clearly on that.
Yeah,
Actually,
so
he looks more of a left back than a real central back
at this moment,
player.
This moment, indeed. But what does that tell us? I mean, it doesn't look good, and I don't know who's responsible. Is it Huntelaar and Hamstra, which we will talk upon later on, or is it Schreuder because he was also responsible for transfers through his agents? Yeah. I don't know, but either way, it's internally from the start. It's quiet now. It's everything is now calm, etc. I don't believe that. I really don't believe that. I think there's a real war internally within the board, between Schreuder and the board, between the supervisory board and the board. I think it's a mess at this moment.
Yeah. Also, if you look at Bergwijn, our top signing, right? Who plays on the left wing normally? Our captain. So was that the best option to go for? I mean, we heard Bergwijn for 2 seasons. They focused the hell out of just focusing on that player, but they basically bought a player that makes our captain play 50% of his less on a different position. And also, I understand that when Mark Overmars went, experience went with it, but you already knew of the players that were leaving. You could have already scouted, looked at different players before even the transfer window started. So, and they could have gone for also an experienced technical director. They didn't have to go for Hamstra and Huntelaar. So I don't think that's a valid argument. And they could have done much more. And also, you say, yeah, Martinez and Antony was not expected. Well, if you look at the transfer window, a lot of pull was coming from different clubs for those players. And you could have anticipated a little bit more. That it happens in the last window, okay, that's not good. But it was already weeks before then that people were talking about Antony and where will he go, and that he also wanted to go. And so, yeah, we could have, if you look back, we could have done a lot of things much better. And now the team,
let me react to that, because some of what you're saying, I understand. But some of the things, in my opinion, is hindsight, because Lisandro Martinez, I agree. That one I agree, because even before United came, Arsenal was the first one that was interested in Lisandro Martinez. And it was pretty early in the summer window. So usually we know from Ajax, every normal club should have a shadow list, right? A list, a backup list. If a player leaves, they have this backup. However, for Antony, selling a player like that 5 days before the window closes or 4 days before, there's no way you're going to find a good replacement short before the window. And the thing is, in that specifically, I will defend Schreuder, because Schreuder, Hamstra, Huntelaar did not want to sell him. They got overruled. Even Van der Sar admitted that as well. They made a financial decision above the sportive decision.
Yeah.
So, but, and one thing I want to say about Bergwijn, for me, that one, I still, to this day, I don't understand, because forget Schreuder, Ten Hag and Overmars were chasing him even. And we still had Tadic in the team. So my question is, did they see Bergwijn as a left winger, or did they have another role for him? And maybe that role is not being found out by Schreuder yet. Because I cannot believe that Ten Hag, the coach that he is, and maybe Overmars, the technical director that he is, that they went 2 years, they were chasing him, just to play him as a left winger, and they know they have an MVP right there every season. So what do you guys think about that?
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, you're absolutely right.
Questionable.
I think
Questionable.
I think Ten Hag has had a different view on where to put Bergwijn in the starting lineup. Perhaps maybe as a striker, or maybe something as a 10, because he changed a lot within the 10 position.
Yeah.
Because normally you don't change Tadic, especially in form Tadic. You don't change him. So it's still unclear for me. And as I said earlier, a few months ago, I think Bergwijn is, I'm not saying overrated, but it's overpriced. And he showed that right now, because he didn't do anything in Champions League. And that's why we bought him, right?
Yeah, but that's too simple for me. That's too simple for me.
No, but
if your team is not building up correctly, you cannot only blame the attacker.
No, I agree with that. But he didn't deliver at least a bit, in my view. I mean, we talk about 35 million, eh? But okay, that's a side.
Can we say that Bergwijn? I mean, maybe I look at him differently than maybe Sahbi or you guys, but what Bergwijn, for me, is a very, very good player. And I don't think he has been showing his true quality yet in this Ajax team. Yes, every now and then he cuts inside, he scores a goal. That's fine, but he can do so much better.
He can, but you can also see from his body language that there's something clearly, irking him. There's something clearly. There's just a lot wrong right now at Ajax, right? Whether it's in the boardroom, whether it's in the changing room, there's a lot of discontent. There are a lot of things that aren't right. And you can see that, right? You can see what players actually want to say in interviews, but they're holding back. And I think that the ultimate explosion, the climax, was that press conference that Schreuder gave, where he felt he couldn't, he had to release that frustration. Now, that tells you a lot as to
how much, Kabir, how much of that frustration do you think is really directed to the media or the criticism? And how much was it really an eruption of what's happening within Ajax and we don't know about?
I think that blaming the media was just a front. This is not Schreuder's first ever job in football. He knows how the football world works, right? He was a player himself. I think he was using the media as just sort of puppets, so to speak, but really he was screaming and shouting at Ajax. And he was trying to tell the world, this is what's wrong. This is what, I thought. This is what the actual situation is. And he was just getting rid of all that frustration. And that's why the media themselves were shocked. They're like, oh, really? It's not like we asked you a specific question that was rude or something like that, or something about how you should leave or whatever. It was just some pretty simple questions, general questions that are asked at the end of every press conference. And he just exploded. So there was a lot more of a deeper meaning to that. When was the last time we've ever seen that happen, really? At Ajax, I can't remember.
Maybe Football?
Yeah, I mean,
are you that stupid or am I that smart? That's the only thing.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. But okay, Van Gaal always has a go with the press. That's his modus operandi. But someone like Schreuder, who also up until then came across as the quote unquote softie, the nice guy, the guy that was very measured, and then all of a sudden to display like this, deeper meanings to it.
The only thing I would argue that I think what happened with talking about his agent and that he had something to do and that he made money out of those transfers, I think that went too far for him, and I think that's what made him really burst on the press conference. But
but still, also at Ajax, I mean, if he says, like, if they're not happy, sack me, just sack me. It's clear.
That's more than just the agent. Yeah, that's more.
It's something with the board. Perhaps he had a huge discussion internally where they.
You guys remember that Ziggo? One time he was at the Rondo at Ziggo, the TV channel, and that was right before. I think at that time, Anthony was already sold. He was just
something like that.
Yeah, it was about to become. I mean, it was clear already. Did you see how, his non-verbal language was, his face and everything? He was not happy.
Of course. Who would be happy?
No coach would be happy. But to go back to the point that Sabi was making, if Anthony, okay, look, he left on the last day or a few days before, fine. But if you know that there's going to be a possibility and you're Ajax as a club and you have the financial power to be able to buy people, how can you come up with Lucas Ocampos as a replacement for Anthony? In which world are we living in that Lucas Ocampos is a suitable replacement for Anthony? In fact, actually, I don't necessarily agree with the RVC blocking things, but in this instance, I'm so happy they blocked it because
Exactly.
we were gonna lay out 40 million in total for him.
Yeah.
Has anyone even seen him pass the ball?
Yeah.
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 The thing is that makes it. I'm not defending anyone here, right? But the argument that was brought up, even from the start, said it now again, is that Conceição, and I think Mike Ferrari said that maybe he was on the scouting list of Ajax, so that's one of the few. But he was seen as the one that should replace Anthony. But the idea was next year. So this year would be more like getting used to everything, and next year he would be the real replacement of Anthony. Now Anthony gets sold last minute, unexpected, and they have Conceição right now. So what do? Conceição is not ready. He's too green right now. So they want somebody who's experienced, who can, fulfill that role one season. I'm not saying that he's the guy. I'm just saying maybe that's the thought process.
Yeah, but that's one season. At first, they wanted to buy him. It was a
exactly.
So,
that's true. That's true.
They wanted to buy him.
The RBC actually did a good thing.
Exactly, and I mean, and it was, and that is something probably what his agent of Schreuder has done or probably proposed, without any scouting report, without anything on paper. They didn't follow him, and that reminds me back on the time that Martin Jol was coach, or the time when Marco van Basten was coach. I mean,
actually, about Marco van Basten. Sorry, did you see this? Yeah, did you say? Did you hear what he said last time about it?
Yeah.
When he took over, also they didn't have a technical director, so he had to find with his agent how to get players, and he bought Suleiman.
Yeah. And just like and they bought him not because it was on the scouting report, but just because he was a talent. It was like a gamble.
But he was really good at Heerenveen, let's be honest.
He was good, but for people like that, under Martin Jol, we had Jung Suk that used to just hang outside the Tukoms watching the training session. And they're like, "Can you kick a ball? Come!" And he ended up getting a contract.
Yeah. So that reminds me of that period, and I never want to go back to that period again. So
okay. So moving on to the last part. Hamstra and Huntelaar, they're on the interim basis. Okay. Unexpected. Overmars left. Let's be honest. Overmars was supposed he signed before he left. He signed a contract extension, right? He was supposed to stay at least 2 more years, 3 more years, and he left. So they came up with, Hamstra was already there. You go there. Huntelaar just retired. Found it interesting. Okay, you can maybe grow into that role. So both of them, they're doing a dual role right now. Is this? I mean, it's still early, right? They had one window, but what's your overall opinion right now? Because let's be honest, most of the people were very happy in the summer with the signings and how we did business, how much we sold players. So are we basically saying right now, no, it wasn't good?
No, I was happy with the gems. Like Conceição is a gem. Like you see that he has potential and he will be amazing in a couple of years. Bassi the same. I think he has a lot of potential, but that's a left back, not a left central back in my view. But yeah, I mean, if you're missing a right wing, your veterans are going downhill in level. This is a rebuild season, and yeah, maybe some of them were good, but if you look at Ocampos, not really good. Luca, I'm impressed, but also needs time, and I like the kind of target man kind of striker. But Bergwijn, I think, is the only one that came in and Bassi that are really starters. And Sanchez, also needs time, Juan. Also a young player. Wrench plays before him. On the ball, not very comfortable. So it's not even a real Ajax player. A real Ajax back, let's say, compared to Mazraoui. So, I think they judged some qualities wrong, but also it was more of a long-time project. And they didn't really look at, okay, we're missing so much players and we need players now. So I think that's what went wrong, and they still had trust in the veterans, knowing they could go another season. But that level is also declining.
All right, Kabir, I wanna say one more thing about this. So touching back on the technical directors, what's your view on this? Do you think we should give them more time to grow into this? Because there have been reports. By the way, you missed it, and Sahbi, you missed it too. But last week, I think, or the week before, I forgot. I think it was last week. We had this Twitter space, and there was a very interesting listener who also became a speaker, and he had contacts with people with Henk Veldmaat and all these scouts and so, and he confirmed basically that the scouts were not being heard. And you also read later that what's happening right now is that the board does not take Hamstra or Huntelaar serious. If they come with a scouting report, they don't have the same, as Overmars had. Like Overmars comes, and Overmars built it, right? He started from scratch and he did well. So after a while, they had more trust in him. But it appears there's no trust in those two, and it has to come from Van der Sar. How many times did we hear also with United, with the transfers, Van der Sar has to step in to help, or does this or does that? What does that say about them, honestly?
Look, I think that when someone like an Overmars leaves, you not only are you losing someone with a great track record of what he did at Ajax, you're losing someone with an incredible network within the game, a network that H2 just don't have, right? And I saw actually on one of the sort of shows on Dutch TV with Johan Derksen, René van der Gijp, and all these people that apparently Edwin van der Sar walked into the room and he was sort of asking, does anyone have the number of Benfica? And
the goalkeeper,
the goalkeeper's like, does anyone know how to get in touch with Benfica? And this is Edwin van der Sar, who's part of all these European committees. He clearly doesn't have that network that an Overmars have if he's asking for something as simple as that. So we are lacking in that, yes. Do we need someone to replace Overmars? Absolutely. It really surprises me that there is no sort of big name on the market who could fulfill a role like this.
Danny Blind.
Well, I my views on that is that we should absolutely stay clear from him. But what about someone like like a Maxwell? Ex-Ajax would have an array of contacts. I'm sure he's someone that would, reach out to these people. Why not? Reach out to these people. Okay, Clarence Seedorf, fine. Again, great network, a great career. Okay, he's going to be inexperienced, but Overmars, Van der Sar, when these guys started out, really, okay, I know Overmars had a bit of experience, so go ahead. But these guys, what's the difference between Seedorf and Huntelaar? You're giving Huntelaar a shot. Why not give some? So what I mean to say is someone with a contact, someone that can give support, and that, also sort of shield the manager, like what Overmars did to Erik ten Hag. He really shielded him. That is quite a vital position within the Ajax setup. So we need someone. But I don't think they're doing all they can to get the right person on board.
Yeah, well, actually, again, coming back to the Van der Sar interview, the last part was he said, eventually we will grow into getting one technical director. And then they came up with, okay, when? We don't know yet. We don't have a timeline.
But who are they? Which pond are they fishing in? Are they looking for like a local Dutch person? Are they looking for someone that's?
He basically said it's not a short-term plan. It's on the long term. So, and that worries me the most. I mean, you could clearly see that the technical directors now, if you could call them the technical directors, they were not that great, to be honest. And I can't blame them. I mean, they're both.
But wait, just a minute, right? If you hear, going back to the press conference, if you hear Schreuder saying we didn't have the experience in the summer, basically, let's be honest, if you're that open about it, you're basically saying these two are not ready for it. Yeah?
Exactly.
And then now you have Van der Sar saying eventually we will grow into having one technical director, but not short term. Does this mean that they're giving a chance for Hamstra and Huntelaar to maybe prove themselves, and if that doesn't work, then they'll switch to a real technical director?
Yeah, or it's not on his priority list, and that is, I think, is even more worrisome.
But can't you see the manager is saying that we needed to use an agent because these guys weren't clearly good enough to do their job. But Edwin van der Sar is saying it's not a priority because it's something for the long term. So can you now start seeing all the fraction points? That's why it leads up to all these things, these outbursts in press conferences, the team lineup, the team not performing well. Things are just, Ajax is really ill right now. If you're thinking of it as like a patient in a hospital, it's sick, so it needs to be helped. Things need to change.
Yeah, and the thing that I've heard and read is that Huntelaar is still seeking which role within Ajax suits him the best. So it's not like he wants this role.
It's not
He's
100%.
just- It's
Yeah.
not 100%. He's just seeking. Maybe he wants to deep dive into marketing or any other role, and that means it's not on his. Maybe it's not his priority. But what is really frustrating me is the hamster part. He is just too light, and I fear for him that he
Yeah.
won't keep this role for long. If the players don't respect you, then you're just not fit for the job. I mean, we just we
Yeah,
heard
the Martinez case, yeah.
exactly by saying you don't have any balls, you're just a small
Who the F
guy.
are you? Yeah.
What does that say? What does that say? I mean, you're just not a. Did you really see him, Martinez, saying that to Overmars? Hell no. So he needs somebody with baggage
Yeah.
and
Reputation,
with
experience.
reputation, experience.
Yeah. Charisma.
Seek for that. We're
Yeah.
a goddamn listed company. We're a top club. We're an elite club,
Yeah.
and we're still looking for a technical director. This is ridiculous. Just by saying this, it's ridiculous.
In the
I
long
agree.
term. In the long
I
term.
agree.
Yeah, on the long term, I mean, long. I'm not getting into that. Sorry, man.
You straight the carrot out at you.
Look, guys, we spoke about everything, and I think everybody grabbed a little bit, your opinions on this. Just to finalize, to top off, everybody in maybe two sentences, the general consensus about this Ajax. If you look at the signings this window, if you look at Schreuder, his job right now, he's trying to find out the rebuild, everything like that. And we talked about the Hamstra and Huntelaar. What's the thing that mostly is now sitting with you right now, moving on to the next few weeks and maybe even till the end of the season? Let me start with Sahbi, then Papimento, Kabir, you can cap it off.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is I don't see any growth. I don't see an identity, and that's my main take on this on this topic, and that's why for me it's clear. Schreuder out.
Papimento.
You're
We don't
unmuted.
hear you. We don't hear you.
Sorry, guys. I was muted. Yeah, I mean, look, Schreuder didn't try everything yet for me to decide if this team has capabilities to give us a long run in Europa League. But there are certain things that he's making difficult for himself, and that's why I'm Schreuder out. It doesn't matter if you're on technical level or on the CEO level that a lot of things are going wrong. As a coach, your results count. What you show on the pitch and what you're training at every day, that should come out during a match day. And that's not what we're seeing. He didn't even try Kudus yet on the right wing position. He didn't even try to play Brobbey and Kudus together. Bassi, I think the setup for our back line was because we were winning in the beginning. A lot of the times the same, like Blind, Bassi, Timber, Rensch, right? That was in the beginning the whole time. Till we got to the Champions League, and then he started switching because it didn't go well. So I think he was too easily content with the scoreline and not really looking at what level we are showing on the pitch, and that's why I'm Schreuder out.
Wow, Kabir, come on,
Yeah.
bro. You have to be the positive guy right now. Let's go.
Look, for me, lack of cohesion within the club. Too many of the important members in the club at board level completely off scale with one another. Noses are pointing in different directions. Schreuder, who I think is sure he could be someone that's displayed promise in the past and done good work in the past as an assistant manager. I think he's out of his depth as a manager, especially for a club like Ajax. I don't see any improvement in the way we're playing. I see people being played in the wrong positions. I see the wrong people on the wrong on the pitch. I'm sorry. I want to be positive, but I think it's 3 strikes there. I'm Schreuder out as well.